Jeff, I know you guys talked about this at length on the Beastcast last week.
We did, yeah.
But I feel we would be remiss if we did not also touch on the new review policy that Bethesda has made explicit.
Right, yeah.
In the last week.
Yeah, they posted this. I think it was while we were doing the podcast last week.
Yes,
or
right.
or just after, or
tail end,
like that,
right around there. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you might want to just quote from it directly.
I could just read the whole thing if you want.
Yeah, go ahead.
So Bethesda, they posted this on their Beth blog. It's entitled Bethesda and Game Reviews. At Bethesda, we value media reviews. We read them, we watch them, we try to learn from them when they offer critique, and we understand their value to our players. Earlier this year, we released Doom. We sent review copies to arrive the day before launch, which led to speculation about the quality of the game. Since then, Doom has emerged as a critical and commercial hit and is now one of the highest-rated shooters of the past few years. With the upcoming launches of Skyrim Special Edition and Dishonored 2, we will continue our policy of sending media review copies one day before release. While we will continue to work with media, streamers, and YouTubers to support their coverage both before and after release, we want everyone, including those in the media, to experience our games at the same time. Now, we also understand that some of you want to read reviews before you make your decision, and if that's the case, we encourage you to wait for your favorite reviewers to share their thoughts.
Even if that's, a week or two after release.
Well, by necessity, it will be sometime after.
And also, here's a long list of pre-order bonuses. Act now to avoid disappointment, blah, 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 blah.
Right. Or in the case of Dishonored, act now to play it a day early,
which would be
basically the time that review codes are going out.
But they'll still be working with YouTubers, right?
If they're enthusiastic.
They put this out, and then days before that, people out there on YouTube have really been posting Skyrim remastered videos in a very non-critical way.
Yeah. And I mean, they themselves were tweeting about some of the Skyrim streams that were going on.
Exactly.
They were promoting some of these streams a days or a week before this statement came out.
Yeah. So I think that it's pretty, it's a weird statement because they they get out and mention Doom as if and it went on to be great.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're going to continue doing that. Leaving out the part where the Doom multiplayer beta was savaged to a point where they were probably scared to send out review copies ahead of time.
Right.
And they lucked into that one because the single player in Doom turned out to be amazing.
I feel that
they probably didn't actually quite know that the single player was that amazing before they got it out there.
Yeah, hanging your hat on Doom is problematic for 3 different reasons.
Sure.
It kind of doesn't really hold up with the logic they're presenting here. We want everyone, to experience our games at the same time. It's but you guys ran that multiplayer beta a month or two ahead of time. That's right. Exactly.
They ran that, and then also, they want everyone to experience their games at the same time. Meanwhile, here is a ton of people on YouTube posting Skyrim footage who are, not in a critical capacity. There's Kotaku ran a story about this, which it's recovered the facts of it or whatever, but linked to a YouTube video that we actually played a clip of on the Beastcast. And the guy, whatever, I'm sure the guy's super enthusiastic about Skyrim. I'm not knocking him.
Yeah.
But it's 30 seconds of going, wow, Bethesda contacted me and said they were going to send me a copy of the game. Great.
The Bethesda.
So here it is. They said they overnighted it to me. And it's okay, yeah, no, sure.
Do you
if
think
that's the type of coverage that Bethesda wants, and clearly this is the type of coverage they want around the lead up to their launch, as opposed to reviews that might dare to say something negative about a game, then of course, I totally get why they would do this in the wake of probably how they thought Doom was going to review, and then also with the way Fallout launched pre-patch, of course they would want to prevent those sorts of reviews from hitting. So I get why they would do this, and to get out there and issue this statement about how much they value reviews, I think is really not the truth.
That part reads as incredibly disingenuous.
Yeah.
Do you think these YouTubers are signing things the things saying oh, make sure you show the product in a positive light?
In this specific case, I have no idea. That certainly has been the case in some, Warner has paid YouTube people to stream the game on Twitch, and
Microsoft,
but then took a lot of heat from the FCC for that.
Yes,
I would.
But those standards are in the process of being established.
Right. It's because they weren't transparent enough.
Right.
It's not that they did it. It's that they didn't come come out and say explicitly that that's
Exactly,
what they had
yes.
done. I would absolutely bet in the case of these like bedroom streamers that with 40,000 subscribers or whatever that are super stoked that they talk to Bethesda, they're not signing a contract and getting paid.
They can just safely assume that these people are gonna freak out over this game.
Yeah, I'm guessing in those cases they're excited enough just to get the game early.
Yeah, potentially. So yeah, I don't know. Like, obviously, it's their prerogative.
Yeah,
to,
totally. It is absolutely
not distribute copies ahead of time.
Right.
Like, there's no legal obligation or any nonsense like that.
And like, I have a certain amount of respect for the fact that they just came out and said it. Hey, we're not doing this anymore.
I think for me, it's the part where like they kind of came out and said it, but are clearly not doing the thing that they came out and said.
Well, yeah,
you look at it and go like, well, you're saying that you're doing this, but clearly you're not. You still want like some form of like neutral to positive coverage, be it from the existing press through preview coverage. Like the day that they put this out, we had just turned down a visit from Harvey Smith and the producer of Dishonored 2, not because of this, but because we just, I was headed to New York and we weren't going to, the timing of it wasn't going to line up. But
we already had like an unfinished up.
But the idea that they would obviously want to like get access to our audience for the purposes of, talking about their game before anyone is talking about it qualitatively.
Yeah, in a very controlled way.
Yeah, in these types of interviews and stuff like that, they would want access to our audience for that sort of stuff, but won't honor and respect our audience enough to then close the loop at the end with like timely review, like allowing for timely review coverage is, it's just crazy.
Yeah, you can't have it both ways.
Yeah. I don't see how they can pretend that this benefits anyone but them.
Right.
And not the media, not the consumer.
Yeah, we want everyone to experience it at the same time is like a meaningless phrase. Like,
this is for Bethesda because they're scared of reviews.
Yeah.
That's it.
Like, absolutely. And I bet that this policy is not being like honored in a completely flat way across the board. When you I'm sure that there are long lead outlets that are probably still getting review copies.
Yep.
And then on top of that, you've got the YouTube situation and stuff like that. So it's a mess. Like when you look at the statement, and if that's like 100% what they were doing, you go like, okay, well, I can respect that. Like, all right, sure, I guess, why not?
It's like we'll wait for you to send it, or we will buy our copy and
like you don't want people to know that Fallout shipped with a bunch of bugs. Sure, of course you don't. Of course you don't. So just do it.
Have any of these
then when they are not kind of sticking to that, I'll be curious to see. So yeah, like in the wake of that, there was the rounds of Dishonored interviews and stuff like that they were doing, and they say that they'll continue to support and all this other stuff. And yeah, sure.
Are these YouTuber things, these early ones of Skyrim, are they live streamed specifically? Because I wonder if they would not want it to be live streamed in case there was
there's certainly I think
like
there's
bugs and stuff.
Yeah.
Although, so I mean, in this case, this is anecdotal, just from what I saw looking around, that a lot of the videos on YouTube were these smaller time, like people I'd never heard of, and then some of the live streams that were taking place that were promoted by Bethesda were absolutely big name streamers that I had heard of. So that seemed to be the split there.
Huh.
So there may very well have been a contract in place with those live streams that they were promoting. I don't know for sure.
That aspect of it, I don't think matters that much.
Yeah.
Like they're gonna do marketing. They're gonna go out and buy marketing or figure out ways to market their game using people that have active YouTube communities or Twitch communities.
And I've never had a problem with that stuff existing because everybody, each individual is capable of making up their own mind about who they trust and what form of coverage they want. But as long as all forms of coverage still exist, as long as the option is there to go look for an impartial, if your favorite streamer is doing some kind of brand deal a week early and streaming the game and you're fine with that, then that's cool. Like that's totally your option. But when there are no other options is when it starts to break down.
Well, it's when they specifically work to prevent like critical opinions from getting out there in their launch window. Like that's that's clearly what they're trying to do here. So and fine, I totally get why a company like that has shipped highly popular games that launch in a fucked up state would want to stop reviews from hitting the week of launch. Like, sure.
We don't see this in the movie industry, though. Like, hundreds of millions of dollars go into movies, and, occasionally they will do the, like, oh, we're not screening it for critics, but that is when these movies are fucking terrible.
That's when you know, like in the case of movies, when they don't screen stuff early, that's absolutely when you know it's probably terrible. But
and in games, you have seen that, but also it's not always the case that that a game that is not sent out for review is bad.
That's true. Yeah, that is absolutely true. I even see people extending that to anything that's embargoed until launch day is probably terrible, which is 100% not the case.
No, like most things are embargoed until launch day. That's the way
been
things
standard
go.
Procedure for years and years.
That's fine. If they don't want to support our endeavors to cover games in a timely and critical fashion, that's on them.
Yeah, it's absolutely their right fine. To do that.
But also, we probably won't devote a lot of time to preview coverage of their games on a go forward basis,
right? Which is
simply because, if they don't respect our audience enough to let us do the thing at the end that we do,
right?
Then letting them kind of have access to that audience free and clear of that kind of check and balance at the end, I think is unfair to our audience.
That's not out of spite. It's absolutely about maintaining the level of trust with the people you're trying to serve.
Yeah.
And they want the stuff that will just directly benefit them and they can control the message, with the preview coverage. But then at the end,
we'll opt out of that. And, if we end up buying Bethesda games from here on out, that's fine. Yeah. That's we've got the budget to do that. It's not a big deal. So whatever.
Kind of a bummer because I like a lot of what they've done over the last few. Like they have been.
They don't put out a lot of games.
Not a lot. It's definitely a very different Bethesda from the days of like Wet and Rogue Warrior.
Sure.
Like especially with it is near and dear to my heart, and like they are 2 for 2 on like handling classic id properties like way better than you could possibly have hoped for.
Yeah.
So to see this happening on the like kind of public relations end,
there are
creative output has been good.
There are interviews and stuff that I would love to do with some of the people behind some of those games and that sort of stuff. But
like Dishonored 2 looks like it will probably be totally solid.
From what I've played, it's great, and fans of that series are going to super dig it, and I'm really looking forward to it. But man, I'm not looking forward to like having to rush through, to do like a quick look. But
what's
embargoes and stuff like that? Like I think there are people that are confused about why that stuff tends to exist, and the kind of main reason why that exists is to kind of create a level playing field for the different media outlets and also to give them time to work on something instead of just like crapping out the fastest thing they can.
I mean, it results in better coverage when everybody has
and I think we're removed from that because we don't really we've never really operated by the we have to be first sort of mentality, so that's none of this really affects us that much. As much as it might affect other outlets out there that are very much in the game of we should have it first or alongside everybody else or all this other stuff. Like, it's not that big of a deal for us and the way we cover games, but the message it sends and again, I think it's a lack of respect for our audience, and that's the part that really brings me down.
Yeah,
same.
One might say it is dishonorable.
Whoa,
damn it.
You could go that far.
You could.
If you were so bold.
You could.
I mean, it's worth pointing out that they're not even the first publisher to make this move. They're just the first ones to come out and state it so directly.
Like 2K
is already on this page.
Been doing this a little bit this year as well. And, that's...
And I don't imagine by any stretch that Bethesda will be the last.
Oh, no. Yeah, this is, like we talked about on the Beastcast, like this sort of stuff has been... This seems like it's been a long time coming, and this is the pivot from publishers caring very much about their day one Metacritic rating to maybe realizing like, oh, actually, you know what? Maybe this doesn't matter at all.
As long as we're hitting X number of channels on Twitch on launch day or the day before, we're fine.
Yeah. There are a lot of different audiences out there for different types of video game content, and they're choosing to support one over the other. And, I get it.
Yeah.
Undoubtedly, there's going to be day one reviews out there. And do you think that you would question those reviews, thinking that they had rushed through the game, or
I probably.
Yeah. Although this raises a lot of. I mean, it's going to vary from game to game like that. So, like bringing up the film analogy is weird because, like, the logistics of review. Well, you've probably reviewed movies, right? Or have you? No,
talked about them a bunch.
Do that for the newspaper? No,
no, just video.
But
game
like like the logistics of reviewing a movie are typically like 2 hours of your time roughly to see the movie, and then whatever time it takes to like analyze and write the review. But like 2 hours versus anywhere from 8 to 100.
Yeah, exactly.
Like the time commitment, like the time it takes to write a good review of a long video game is so much different than it is for a movie.
Yeah.
Like probably if somebody plays Dishonored for 20 straight hours and then shits out a review in 30 minutes. Like,
and I've done exactly that. Like I was talking about last week, Ocarina of Time. Like we got it. We got it Friday. The review was going to run like Monday or Tuesday or something like that. And I basically went home and did nothing but play that game.
Yeah.
What do you give it?
A 10.
Okay.
That's your first 10, right?
Yeah, it was GameSpot's first 10.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah.
And I stand by that. That's not me going like, if I had more time to think about it, maybe no, it's like I'm confident enough in my abilities in that case to do that without making snap judgments and making mistakes and all that sort of stuff, I guess. But like at the same time, it's less than ideal.
I've done it too. Like I remember playing 45 hours of Mass Effect 2 in like 4 days, like basically 15 hours a day.
Yeah.
But even though like you can get the job done, like you can do it and like generally feel good about the output at the end, but like I'm never in quite like the headspace I want to be at the end of that process when I do it that way. Like I start feeling a little like stir crazy, like a little bit loopy upstairs when I have to stare at something for that long without any time to stop and think about and like reflect on what you've done.
I think
you have to just keep going.
I think that part of that though is reflective of how reviews have changed and need to change in the future. Is that there is more of that time. Like if you think about the years we spent at GameSpot, where I was running the reviews team and all that other stuff, and you were on previews, but you reviewed quite a lot of games.
Yeah.
We set up an efficient machine for reviewing games as quickly as we possibly could.
There was a lot of pressure
because there were more games.
Yeah,
because there were always more games.
Yep.
And the reviews we were writing were purchasing advice and very focused on that sort of stuff and the technical nature of it and that sort of stuff. A lot of that is still important, but I think we've reached a point where the gaming audience has grown up to a certain point where they want something that's a little more reasoned and a little more thought out and a little more aimed at a little more in the direction of criticism as opposed to a review. And I think like that's been a shift I've been personally trying to make over these last few years, but again, running that machine for a decade makes it very hard to stop, like to break that mentality and go no, I need to really think about this game as opposed to just like boom, 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 boom.
It is so difficult to get out of that mold.
Yeah.
Like even to this day, writing a review, it's like, well, I got to have my graphics paragraph and my sound paragraph.
Yep. Yeah.
And the multiplayer paragraph. Like it's awful. It's an awful formulaic way to approach something like that.
But like a very efficient and useful one. Like again, like those reviews served a lot of people for a lot of years.
Yeah.
And like I don't want to discount that. And but I think that like again, like times have changed. The audience has changed a little bit. They've grown up a little bit.
Yeah,
especially I'd say our audience generally like is a little more thoughtful about games.
Yeah.
Than maybe the GameSpot audience was 10 years ago, 15 years ago.
I saw in Zillow's piece, which was good, and then Rock Paper Shotgun also published a good piece on this policy. They didn't come out and quote traffic numbers for their respective sites, but they definitely heavily implied that like, hey, we're fine publishing reviews after launch. We already do that, and it's not like they traffic worse.
I can corroborate that to a certain degree as well.
Which is like, that's incredibly encourring to me, actually, that people are still willing to go out and consume that kind of criticism.
Totally.
Maybe after they've bought the game even.
Yeah, and that's, back in the day, like every data point we had at GameSpot back then was around the idea that like people are looking for coverage of a game when it is out. And that's when you're speaking to this big mainstream audience. You've got like all this marketing is hitting them about this launch date. And when that launch date comes, they go, oh, wait, is this game any good or not? Yeah. And then they go look for a review.
And that's like Google side door traffic. They're just typing like Halo 2 review into Google, and then they end up on GameSpot.
Totally. And that's when we did quite well for a lot of years on that exact thing.
Yeah.
Here, like, that's not our game. I don't even think that's GameSpot's game anymore. But like it's a very different, like we have a very different audience. We have a more affluent audience. We have a smarter audience, or it could be because it is less mainstream, a more clued in audience that is following games and to a certain extent the gaming industry. So they're just a little more clued into that sort of stuff. So, those are the sort of people that you would be interested in reading a piece, even if they've already bought and finished a game. Because they might be interested in hearing what someone else's thoughts are on it, or this kind of deep dive, something that is a little more focused on criticism. Yeah. Obviously, you still have the people that are just like trying to hammer home whatever ridiculous idea of objective reviews as a meaningful thing in 2016, which is that ship has sailed. Yeah. That is done. That is gone for a reason.
It's an oxymoron.
Doesn't work. We tried to write those for a lot of years and thought we were. By removing ourselves from the equation as much as possible, but it games have changed. Like the audience that consumes them has changed. That's not the way anymore.
They've grown up, like, or they are starting to grow up. Let's say, sure, so they are taking their first steps into becoming a respectable medium.
Yeah, and you know, like I think that you could see a future where, you know, like the relevance of like a purchasing focused review will dry up over time. I think because you've got an audience that is looking for something different, and I think it's at that point you'll see a shift in games writing, and a lot of people are out there doing this. You know, like Vice is launching a whole site on this idea in a lot of ways of like, hey, we're focused on criticism, the larger conversation about games and where they fit into our lives and all that sort of stuff. We were even, you know, launched as like, we are looking to cover games and the culture around it. That was when we kind of went out and talked about what we were doing to partners, advertise, you know, like whatever. That was more or less the pitch. This Giant Bomb is gaming, the culture around it, and this kind of personality, people first focus on games. So
is Vice even doing reviews?
I don't
or scored reviews, or I haven't heard anything about that.
I don't think they are. Huh. I don't actually know. I don't know. I'll ask Just Blaze about it.
Okay.
Yeah, so I don't know. It's an interesting happening that in some ways you could kind of see coming from a mile away, as kind of relations between the traditional press and publishers continue to change and evolve and all that sort of stuff.
At the time, Doom seemed like a victim of circumstance, but once we got past it, and all the review scores came out, and like I gave it a 5 out of 5, and like great so did everybody else practically. Like I totally looked at that and said they are absolutely going to do this again.
Yeah, I don't know that I would base a policy around that specific situation, because that's
what I mean.
An outlier.
That's not.
It didn't get good reviews because you didn't send it out early.
Well, that's what I meant earlier about if that's the lesson they were taking from Doom, then that is absolutely not, like, that's not the right lesson.
Yeah.
Like that is a huge outlier.
But that's, you know, but this isn't about that. This is about, you know, making sure that nothing is in the way of their messaging around launch, and that's I don't think there's any other way to look at this other than that. So
I wonder what's going to happen around, like, you know, you've got your big city game stores that will sell copies like the Wednesday or Thursday before release. Like, it's not going to work for every game, especially something that like is an online only game or whatever, but something like a Dishonored that's, let's say, 15 hours long.
Yeah.
Somebody goes and gets that on a Wednesday afternoon
and just starts streaming it. What would happen?
Streaming, so I mean, those policies are in place because like Twitch will work with publishers, right?
Yeah. What if you owned your own bandwidth and paid someone else for a white label streaming service that was not part of someone else's thing?
Had built your own streaming platform.
Yeah,
that could be useful, I suppose.
Yeah,
but in terms of reviews, you know, like obviously, like Twitch will pull down streams for games at the publisher's request.
Yes.
But like text reviews are just text, like they're just out there.
Yeah.
At a certain point, like,
yeah.
Do you as the publisher just have to make your peace with that?
I guess.
Like, I don't know.
I don't know. I don't know what you do in that situation.
Yeah.
You know, in some cases, that's why the review embargo works to the publisher's end as well.
I was going to say that earlier because, like, you're right. It is absolutely about giving people a level playing field, but it's also about creating like an orchestrated and strategically timed like publicity hit. You know,
yes,
like all the reviews, all the videos, everything's coming out right now. It's probably trending on Twitter.
Yeah,
like the embargo serves that purpose very acutely as well.
Yeah, I guess it does. Yeah, but yeah, you know that now if basically what this does is it tells every single publication out there, just go rogue, do what you can to cover this game. If you care that much about covering it early, there's always a way.
Right.
So yeah, I don't know. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah. I wonder who's next.
Yeah, I don't know. That's I wonder, I who knows? The amount of shit that has been going around for the past week around this stuff. You wonder if that emboldens other publishers or scares them away from doing the same thing.
Yeah.
But I don't know. All this stuff has to change on some level, so
yeah.
whatever.
It was always going to be bumpy along the way.
Yeah.